Against the backdrop of the beautiful, iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge, the three-day Mining and Petroleum Conference in Sydney, Australia kicked off early this week on Monday the 5th of December 2022. The theme for this year's conference was PNG Resources Securing the Next Wave of Responsible Investment. Over 1,000 financiers, exploration companies, government officials, landowners and business leaders attended the first day of the 16th conference in Sydney. It's been 3 years of uncertainty, but the stakeholders are happy to be back face to face in real time.
We're right next to the entrance, so we can see, from the Prime Minister to all the ministers to all the other delegates, and there's a positive charge to the place. I think it's been 4 years since the event was held, so it's fantastic just to connect with people again post-COVID.
Credit Corporation's head of lending, Don Hallam, expressing his feelings on the event.
Look, it's always good to be to these places. It's a good way to get your name out there and people know you're involved in the development of PNG through the mining resource sector. We do a lot of lending for the resource sector, Teddy, K92 mine, and up in Lay, support services. So the mining industry is very important to our business and to all of PNG.
Papua New Guinea's message to the world is the country has 5 major projects coming up, including the Papua LNG project, Wafi-Golpu, Pasca, the reopening of the Porgera gold mine, and PNG gas. In a packed room, the Prime Minister James Marape reassured delegates and investors of PNG as a potential destination for investment and development.
Not a new mining and oil and gas nation. We have been producing oil and gas since the 1900s, more so the ever-famous gold rush in Waubololo is a testament or a case in point in our history with mining and also oil and gas, in case some of you think we've been recently an oil and gas nation.
The Prime Minister also spoke of the potential of new investors and what the government can do to protect them.
We signed the Landowners Benefit Signing Agreement then in that place. And one of my compatriots, then member for Como, they made an important principle statement. They said, ExxonMobil, you take my gas and take my people with you. And we will support everything you do. Take my gas and take my people with you. It wasn't a literal statement of taking people with you, but more so to do with bettering our people's life.
The PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum President Anthony Smare spoke about PNG's resource growth over 30 million kina and is expected to grow with new opportunities for PNG.
Papua New Guinea needs to define the role it wants to play in this global transition, and we must ensure that the required policies and investments are secured for our country to play a meaningful role in this space for the benefit of the world. Although we have had history as an oil producer, we believe that we have a role to play to ease the transition of the world from hydrocarbons with our production of LNG as a transition fuel, to ease the transition from coal once we developed our renewed energy potential.
Mr. Smare politely expressed to long-time partners like Australia to continue participating in Papua New Guinea's development, but also highlighted future projects that could include China.
China is a very important partner of our country. It plays a significant role in our economy currently. It has interest in a number of our mining projects, a quarter of Porgera through Zijin, majority interest in Ramu Nickel through MMC. It's also a buyer of much of our current minerals output and a majority buyer of our LNG production from the PNG LNG. And it will likely be the major buyer of gas from our new LNG developments, Papua, PNG and Pasca.
The second day of the 16th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference and Exhibition saw the Prime Minister James Marape return early on Tuesday morning to Port Moresby's Jackson's International Airport. Upon his arrival, he highlighted matters of importance that he addressed during the opening of the 16th Mining Conference.
Identity as an oil and gas nation and our mineral nation was established right from the start to give an assurance to especially those who want to come in. That you're very much welcome. We know how to give respect to investors. and also to give comfort to existing investors who are in business and who operators, as well as they hold licenses at various stages of various assets in PNG, for them to know that we are a government who give respect to investors making profit and a return on the investment.
Meanwhile, in Sydney, the conference had its focus on project updates from some of PNG's biggest resource companies. Operator of the multi-billion Kina PNG LNG project, ExxonMobil's PNG's Scott Sandlin, Senior Vice President of Production, focused his update on the progression of the project, with efforts focused on long-term economic development. With Kainantu looking at a major expansion of the Kainantu operations, CEO John Lewins was also pleased to acknowledge the announcement by Minister for Mining Anopala on the renewal and 10-year extension of their mining license.
The legislation is actually quite clear within PNG. It's one of the strengths of PNG. For a mining license, you have to put in an application for renewal. We put our application in early 22, which is ahead of schedule, and we put it in ahead of schedule because we're looking at a major expansion where we'll be spending in excess of $1 billion kina over the next 2 years and $2 billion kina over about the next 5 to 6 years. So we wanted to get that renewal in place.
Mining Minister Anopala also spoke at the 16th Mining Petroleum Conference, stating that he will be working closely with all stakeholders in the sector. He took the opportunity to announce the reopening of Pogera, Wafi Gopu and Freda River after negotiations.
Wafi and Freda River projects upon conclusion of negotiations in the coming weeks. Wafi is going well. The gaps in the negotiations are narrowing now, and we are confident in the coming weeks we will make the announcement. These mega projects will take 5 to 7 years for construction, and we hope to see this mine project operationalized well before 2030.
Petroleum Minister Kerangakua also spoke on PNG's petroleum sector, which is in a robust state with 94 active licenses, 58 prospecting licenses and 10 PDLs. Kua believes this is a good starting point for Papua New Guinea heading into the future. The potential for future projects within the resource industry is a drawing point for investors to PNG.
What our inspiration, what is our vision, what's our dreams? We recognize the importance of the mining and petroleum industries in Papua New Guinea. There's no two ways about the fact that these two industries are the backbone of our country's economy. So we cannot afford to play around with it like a football. So as we ask for a very serious and responsible approach from industry, we too have an obligation as a government to be responsible in the way we handle the issues coming out of these industries.
Despite the success of the 16th Mining Conference, controversy has surrounded the event regarding alleged comments made by former Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, who was a keynote speaker at the conference. In a press release, Prime Minister James Marape stated his disappointment on Thursday, the 8th of December 2022, that news published from an editorial by a foreign-owned media company operating in the country about Julie Bishop was fake news. The news claimed former Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop had rubbished Papua New Guinea at the PNG Mining and Petroleum Conference in Sydney earlier this week. According to the Prime Minister James Marape, nothing could be further from the truth, Marape demanding an apology from the foreign-owned media company. Meanwhile, the former Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop has responded regarding her statements through an email from the Australian National University, stating that at no time did Ms. Bishop make any of the statements attributed to her by the article. Instead, her views were expressed in her speech when speaking during the conference on the bilateral relationship Australia has with Papua New Guinea. Bishop spelled out the importance of investment that Australia understands Papua New Guinea needs to thrive the economy. Bishop spoke that not only their government but the private sector, that is Australian businesses, are interested investors in Papua New Guinea.
Through the Australian government have long supported development in PNG through our foreign aid budget. This year, as Minister Conroy said, it will be about $600 million. But the Australian private sector has also long supported development in PNG. The Australian government cannot and does not tell Australian business where to invest, but Australian businesses choose to invest in PNG, and the current investment is around $24 billion. And that's a significant amount, but we need to increase that sum.
Julie Bishop also reflected on the relationship of the two countries, stating that it is the Australian government's vision as foreign aid donors.
As Foreign Minister, one of my earliest commitments was to move the relationship between PNG and Australia on from aid donor, aid recipient to equal economic partners. And that is a vision that not only the Australian government has, but I know is shared by PNG.
She believes and applauded the Marape government for having the vision on the level of economic resilience and achieving economic independence in the next few years.
Papua New Guinea is master of its own destiny, and its political leaders, ever since independence, have taken PNG along that journey. Now, at the last election, the theme was very much on economic resilience and growth. Prime Minister Marape talked about his vision for PNG. It was back in July of 2019. He'd just become Prime Minister, and he spoke at the Lowy Institute here in Australia. And he welcomed Australia's commitment to foreign aid. He said PNG needed it, but he had a vision, an aspiration that within 10 years, PNG would no longer need Australian foreign aid because it would be economically self-sufficient, resilient, and economically independent.
In concluding his speech, Julie Bishop described Australian government vision on the aid donor, aid recipient to equal economic partners, which is also the PNG government's vision to gain economic independence in the coming decade. The 16th Mining and Petroleum Conference ended on a high this week, with industry and associated professionals being provided an invaluable opportunity to network and market the nation as a destination of business and potential investment. This is a starting point for PNG heading into the next few years, with the potential for future projects within the resources industry, a drawing point for investors to PNG.